first giving honor to God, who is the head of my life and from whom all blessings flow. To Pastor Richards and Reverend Mounter, and to the pulpit staff, and to all of the ministers, to my colleague in government who is leading us forward, Assemblymember Jeffries, to Rickford Burke, who is our Joshua, and to all of you who have assembled. This is a teaching moment, a moment of instruction. We can learn a lot of things from what happened. First thing that we should learn is that whenever anyone is confronted by NYPD, you should not run. You should not run. You should not put yourself in harm's way and or jeopardize the lives of anyone else. You should be responsible and deal with your actions and be held accountable. The second thing we learn from this is that whenever you darken the doors of a house of faith, you should do it with respect, with reverence, and with reservation. Why do I say reservation? Because when you enter the doors of a house of faith, particularly NYPD, I believe that you should only do it under certain circumstances. One, if you have reasonable cause to believe that someone has committed a felony. Let me say that again. If you have reason to believe, reasonable suspicion that someone has committed a felony, not a traffic ticket, not jumping over the turnstile, not running a red light, not throwing away trash, a felony, a very serious charge which carries serious time. Let me also go on to say that in this particular case, there was no question with regards to public safety, which should be another exception. Someone is perhaps a hostage, public safety. Perhaps there's a fire in a house of faith, public safety. And then NYPD should only enter houses of faith under exigent circumstances, emergency situations. And again, when you talk about those exceptions, they did not apply in this case. So what should NYPD do? What they should do is back up and defer to the leadership of the church, particularly in cases where it's relatively minor. And what they should also do is call a superior. And so if you run down all of those exceptions, which I believe are reasonable and consistent with the law, they violated protocol. And so Shiloh, this is a teaching moment. And Shiloh, just as in the Bible where people were silent for a very long time and people were lost, Shiloh, you have now found your voice. You have found your voice. And so what we need to do, take this situation and turn it into something positive and use it to reform the policies of NYPD. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do, because this is a teaching moment. We cannot, I sit by and have these forums. What we need to do is to make sure that these exceptions are put into practice so that this never happens again. Never happens again. And let me just say, you know, the assemblyman and I and the senator, we've received some hate mail. I know I have. Individuals who apparently read the New York Post and the Daily News and got it all wrong. Individuals who said that we were coddling criminals. Here you have Assemblyman Jeffries, who's a New York State Assembly member, but do you also know he's a former Wall Street attorney? Here you have Senator Adams, do you know, was a former lieutenant in NYPD, one of the highest rankings in NYPD. And here you have Letitia James, a former assistant attorney general. How can we dare coddle criminals? All of us, each one of us, Hakeem and I as lawyers, have a responsibility and a duty to follow the law Condemns, as a senator and as a former member of NYPD, has a responsibility and a duty to follow the law. Congresswoman Clark, as a member of a Congress, took an oath to follow the law. We do not follow criminals, not at all. The question was how best to apprehend this individual without putting the safety of anyone else in jeopardy and without violating the sanctity of his church. And so the media got it wrong. And so we have a responsibility to dispel the myths that are out there and all the half-truths. The fact is that these individuals, NYPD could have handled this differently, and we are not criticizing NYPD. This is not a situation where we are criticizing NYPD. We have been in the forefront with respect to safety in this neighborhood each and every day. And this church wants to foster a better relationship with NYPD. By no means do we want to coddle criminals, but this is a teaching moment. This is a teaching moment because your faces now will be the face of Christianity all throughout the New York State. And they will see that you are a peaceful people and that they will see that you worship God, and all you want to do is worship your God without the intrusion of NYPD, without the respect of NYPD. Yes, Shiloh, you have found your voice. And so, Shiloh, now you're going to have politicians coming in and out of here because now we are going to elevate your statue because we're going to use this incident, we're going to use this experience to transform and to reform the policies of NYPD. And if we need to get to marching, we will. If we need to get to, if we need to get to marching, we will. If we need to walk over the bridge, we will. If we need to have press conferences in City Hall, we will. If we need to go to Albany, we will. If we need to go to Washington, we will. Because it's the God we praise, and no one will disrespect the sanctity of our Lord and Jesus Christ. God bless you.
That's your councilwoman, Letitia James. Give it up. That's why God has inspired us to elect the leaders like these to represent us. And that's why they're standing with Shiloh today. You know, we're all talking about Kendall as if Kendall is not here. So at this point in time, I want to call Kendall. Come, Kendall, stand right here. Let me reintroduce you to Shiloh. Because not only is Kendall a victim of the brutality and the disrespect of NYPD, Kendall, as Letitia said, because of this incident, we will look to ensure that this young man is groomed in the way we would have him. And we hope, Kendall, that this is a learning exercise for you. Everybody makes mistakes. His only mistake is to make a wrong turn. And he had the brutality, brute force of the NYPD meted out to him. And we are standing with the Jones family. And you know, I forgot to mention that one of Tish's colleagues in the city council, Peter Vallone, supposed to be a Democrat, but Peter Vallone, if you guys read the Daily News, you heard what you read what he said, right? He said sanctuary ended in the Middle Ages. In other words, what he was saying, that the black church is not a sacred place for people to be, for the NYPD to respect. That's how I interpreted what he's saying. And in my view, those comments are Napoleon-like. And anybody who made those comments, I don't see them being leaders in our community to represent us. And do you know that Peter Vallone is going to run for the district attorney in Queens? That is frightening. And so we will ensure that we go to Queens to remind the people of Queens that Peter Vallone believes that the black church is not sacred and that sanctity should not be respected in the black church. We must do that. And I'm Seventh-day Adventist, but I'm also a community leader. And when I get inspiration from like Al Sharpton and Letitia and Hakeem, I get fired up. And so I want to fire you up too, to stand up for your right. So as we stand with Kendall, let us stand up for our dignity as human beings and for what we believe in as Seventh-day Adventists. Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries.